Welcome back to the Behind the Well Show. Your host, Roger Abel, back with Elias Randall. Elias, how's it going today?
I'm good, Roger.
Good.
How are you?
Good. I'm good. I thought it'd be fun today. I think one thing we've talked about before in the show is that a lot of times we look back and say, I wish I would have done this. I wish we would have saved earlier, all these different things. And I ran across an article, and it's titled, What 6 Older Americans Want to Say to Their Younger Selves. This is on Business Insider, but I thought it was a really kind of fun article. And there are a couple of things in here that I didn't expect people to actually say, but I thought we'd run through them because I think as we get older, there's always things we wish we would have done different. And the best way to learn is from those who've been through what we're going to go through. And I'm gonna jump down in the article a little bit, but I'm gonna start with the second one. There was a gal by the name of Anita Clemens Swanigan. She's 59 years old. One of the things she wrote in here, and so these are like articles that they wrote to themselves. And her first line was, "Dear younger self, save more and give less," which, you know, we don't always hear that. And she said, I've lived my life wanting to look out for the less fortunate. I've always offered financial help to those, not realizing that I was less fortunate too. And
whoa,
there's nothing wrong with helping others, but I think this goes back to a few of the core beliefs we have about why we want people to do financial plans, why we want them to complete them so they know where they stand and they know what they're working with, what they can do to help others. What are your thoughts? This is literally one of the first times I've actually heard somebody say this. I know people have probably thought it, but to actually say that's a pretty good self-reflection.
It is, and it's probably a hard thing to admit, but I guess if it sounds like she was offering too much financial assistance to friends and family over the years, and probably at the sacrifice of her own personal financial situation. So I would imagine didn't really realize how that was negatively impacting her. But if she, I think one of the things we talk with people about is kind of the pay yourself first mentality. So is it okay to be charitable and to help people? Yeah, absolutely.
You should be.
Yeah, you should. It's probably tough, though, to be in a position where, I've been very friendly and generous. I've helped all these people, because the reality is the people you're helping, they're not going to be able to help you with your income and retirement and help you build your own personal wealth. So I think it's very similar to most other items where there has to be some sort of balance of being able to afford helping people with those type of gifts and being able to afford the life that you need to have too. So yeah, it's tough. People ask for help and you want to help them. And was she a nurse or something? It said she worked
various
in
positions in hospitals, which,
yeah,
I mean,
so that's a career that you're probably somewhat charitable, right? Your whole career is based on helping people. So there's a lot of reward for doing that.
So it reminds me of a plan that I put together. Man, I don't know if you were with me or not on this one. It must have been 7, maybe it might have been longer, might have been 9 years ago. I had an individual come in here doing a financial plan, and we went through it all, and he wasn't in horrible shape, but he wasn't like on track. And I laid out what he needed to do to get on track. And he needed to save like another $1,500 a month, which he had the ability to do. But he was prioritizing paying for his kids' college over his retirement. And I laid it out and said, hey, that's great. I understand you want to pay for your kids' college, but at the end of the day, they're not going to help you retire. And if you don't save and get on track, you're going to be a burden on your kids. And he disagreed with me, and that's fine. You don't have to agree with me. It is what it is. But it just reminds me, he was more concerned about helping his kids get through college, which kids can find their own way through college. I did. Most people can find their way, than prioritizing himself. And I'd be curious today, because he's probably about retirement age. I'd be curious today if I talk to that individual, if he's happy with the choice he made, or if you wish he would have done something different. Because ultimately, his child wasn't in college yet. He was saving for it. What if his kid didn't go to school? What if they didn't use that money? What if he went to school and dropped out? Like, there's so many things that can happen. So I think this is just a good example of why having a plan and understanding where you stand individually can help make decisions on whether, or maybe not whether, but how charitable you can be. Because the alternate could have happened. If this individual in the article had done a financial plan and found out, hey, I'm on track, maybe they could have been more charitable. So this is about being less charitable. It's about making sure you take care of ourselves, so we're not going to rely on others, and then we can do the maximum amount we can to help other people that maybe aren't as fortunate.
Well, that's the good news. There should be a way to accomplish multiple goals or multiple visions for your life, but it takes being intentional, and it takes some, it just takes thought and planning and having a course of action to get there. So which, you want to move into the next one?
Yeah. So this is a librarian in Ohio said she wished she would have taken the time to learn investment strategies early, open a Roth IRA earlier in her career, and shifted careers sooner. And I think this we hear all the time. We all wish we would have done things sooner because we see what happens. But I think interestingly here, she wanted to take the time to learn about investment strategies. And that just shows she wanted to be more knowledgeable. And we want all of our clients that we work with to have knowledge. The more knowledgeable they are, the better it is. We're not looking to we will do everything for people. When someone has a level of knowledge and has some input, we like to take their input and craft that into their financial plan.
Well, and how many not starting a Roth or not starting it early enough? That's a pretty common thing people bring up as they transition into retirement. So that is one of the more common regrets, or just something people wish they would have done. And I think to this lady's, exactly to her point, had she had some more education and knowledge around everything, she probably would have made a different decision. I think, which is a lot of young people, what's one of the things we talk about, get a Roth started, right?
Well,
you're doing your 401k, get some stuff going.
In this gal's defense, the Roth IRA went into effect in 1998. So realistically,
it hasn't been around that long.
Yeah, we all think it's been here forever. This thing's been here like 25 years. That's it. And think about most people, the adoption of things. How many people in 1998 do you think rushed out and adopted a Roth IRA?
Not nearly as many as that should have.
Well, they didn't know what it was, right? Like, this is
it's
new.
Unknown. It's not what I'm used to doing.
I'll give you an example. It'd be similar to this, Elias. If a product vendor came in here, approved by LPL, right? LPL had done their due diligence and said, yes, they're on your approved product list. And they came in here and they had a 6-month track history. What are the chances we're going to utilize it? Probably about zero.
Slim to none.
Right? So then 5 years goes by and the likelihood that we're going to utilize it goes up. And after 10, we have a track history. The advent of the Roth IRA was probably no different. Hey, let's see how this works out. So if you look at mass adoption, maybe came in 5 years later, let's say 2003, this has only been around 20 years. So she really shouldn't beat herself up for not doing it. It hasn't been around that long. But I just think in general, the ability to self-reflect and say, I wish I would have known, or I wish I would have learned sooner. Learning can happen in all phases of life. And the more you learn, the better you're going to be, the better decisions you're going to make. That said, I do think some people, once they get a little knowledge, like to think they really know how it works. And sometimes that's to their detriment. What was the chart we ran? I had that chart where it shows the level of confidence. And when you don't really know much, your level of confidence is pretty high. And as you start to learn more about a subject, your confidence actually goes lower in how much you think you know. It's exactly the same thing.
The more you travel up the learning curve, or however you want to describe it, right? Your confidence goes down because you start to realize, just like every other topic, there's so much. To be an expert in something, it's not easy. And what's that? There's a book, right? The 10,000 hour rule. That's like the minimum hurdle to become an expert on something. Well, where are you going to spend 10,000 hours on anything in your life, right? Especially you got a career, you have a family. When's that other 10,000 hours coming? You're going to have to chip away at it.
What's 40 hours a year? 40 hours a week times 50 weeks a year. What's that get you? 2,000-ish?
That's what I'm saying. Like a normal work year is what, 2,000 to 3,000 hours for the whole year.
So you're going to
So after you've been in your job for 4 years, you're now getting to expert level.
And you know what? That said, I don't think you have to be an expert to be educated and make good decisions, but just don't pretend to be one. We'll go on to the next one. It was a gal in California. She regretted retiring too early, overspending the first year of retirement, and cashing out her 401k. This is one we hear a lot. And let's talk about retiring too early because, I'm inferring from this that she retired early and maybe didn't have a handle on how much money she was spending. I think the retiring early regret that I see most is that people didn't think through how they were going to spend their retirement years. They became disconnected from people. They didn't have a sense of purpose and they became bored. Happens all the time.
Yeah.
They don't have a purpose. And that's one of the biggest risks to retiring too early is not having a sense of purpose. It's not always about the money. A lot of times, if you don't have a hobby, it's tough to do. Somebody asked me the other day, if you could retire tomorrow, would you?
Ask you that?
Yeah.
What did you say?
No. And they go, why? I said, because I don't know what I would do. And they go, well, you like to hunt and you like to fish and this. I said, yeah, but I have kids in school, which means I'm going to the bus stop at 7:45 and we're home at 3:30 to get them off the bus. And then at night we're taking them to activities. Like, when am I going to have any time to do any of that? So why would I retire? And I love what I do, right? I do. I like doing this. But I thought it was just a good chance for me to answer. I'm like, no, I wouldn't. I don't know what I would do.
Well, and I think if you have an approach where you're in a career that you enjoy, plus you're able to do things, which that's one of the great things of our business is there's a lot of autonomy, right? So you have the ability to work in something you're passionate about and also have some hobbies and do some other stuff because there's definitely, right, you can work too much. Too, it's possible to not work enough. It's also possible to work too much, and that was one of the other letters in here was from a guy who was writing about to his younger self. He wished he would have worked less over his career. So I think I think there just takes a little bit of, if you're going to retire early, what's one thing we talk about like do a practice retirement, know what you're going to do and how you're going to spend your time. And there are people who really thrive at that. A lot of our clients are really thriving at that part of life. But I'll tell you what they're not doing. They're not just kind of getting by, right, day to day. They knew the activities and the things they wanted to pursue at that point in their life. The other thing I thought was interesting from this lady, Misty Miller, was when she bought her first home when she was 30, and she could have spent $20,000 more and bought a nicer place in a better location and in a better neighborhood. But at the time, she felt like she should save the $20,000. So then part of that was she regretted that was a regret because the other house she was looking at was in a nicer location, would have been a better house and appreciated more over time. So, and I think that's, at least for me, I know as a young person, sometimes you feel like, oh, I have to save this money or I can't afford that. There are things in life that it's not going to set you back one way or the other. One, it's not going to make your situation so much greater. It's not going to negatively impact your situation either. So I think the more, and on a house, on a 30-year mortgage. What's an extra 20,000?
Well, okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little. I agree. If you get a house in a better location, it's going to appreciate more. It's probably worth spending the money. But here's the one thing that I liked about what she did. And I think this is the difference between people who have lots of debt and people who don't. Most people, Elias, in that situation you're talking about, would have done exactly what you said. Well, it's only $150 more a month. They look at things as a payment instead of how much things cost.
Okay,
like,
elaborate on that.
I think it was good because wealthy people think about the cost of things. Hey, this car is $80,000. Broke people, it's only $1,000 a month.
Broke.
Well, I'm not just, no, but in general, think about it. How many people do you know that are concerned about the monthly payment or quantifying purchase in monthly payments are more successful than people that are looking at the cost of things?
I probably don't have a lot of friends that
are successful that are talking about what the payment is.
Yes, correct.
Because they're
I
living in
agree
the
with
world of debt. So while I get it, she probably should have spent the extra $20,000. I still like her mindset of, well, it was $20,000 more. It wasn't $125. That's what the car dealership wants you to think. Hey, we can get this. Your payment's $700 over the next 9 years. I mean, I just thought that was, I like her train of thought, and I think that's a good learning experience for people listening to the show. Instead of thinking things in payments, just think about them in how much are you spending. I'm yet to be one of my...
Okay, well, and you're bringing up...
And a house is a little
playing
different.
devil's advocate, right? So if we're talking a house...
It's probably
right?
okay.
Location, it's 20,000 more, right? Although I guess all those things need to be considered and thought through.
Yeah, if you tell me that you're going to buy this car because it's only $150 a month more versus $20,000, wrong mentality.
Yes. Well, right. We're talking... Okay.
Talking about real estate.
Yes.
But I do agree with her. There is the case to be made, and I'm guilty of it. I'm one who likes to get a deal, or like I don't want to overpay.
You like deals. Everyone likes deals.
Who doesn't like a deal? But then there's times you're like, man, if I would have just done it, I would have been better off in 5 years. I overanalyzed why I should or shouldn't do it, right? It's easy. We all get, paralysis by analysis sometimes, and we overthink things. And sometimes the most, wild things we do turn out to be okay. This one I really like, and then we'll kind of move on with the show. But, I think we're talking about things that a lot of people that are listening to this show either have had the thought or are going to run across this. But this is from a husband and wife. One was a salesman, one was a secretary. And they both said they wish they would have pursued careers that they were passionate about, worked longer before retiring, and been more cautious about savings. I think that if you can find something you're passionate about, all the other stuff kind of takes care of itself. I mean, like we used myself as an example. Would you retire tomorrow? No, because I really like what I do. Why would I? I can work longer in that career. Most people that dislike their job, they are looking for a way out as soon as possible.
Well, yeah, if you got to go to work for 40 hours a week, if you're not enjoying it, it's not fun, and you don't like it, that's a long week.
I think this is for young people. This is really important. Find something you're passionate about. I got my hair cut this morning, and I was talking to the gal who cuts my hair, and she owns a salon. And she did something prior. She was working in a bank, and she's like, it was the worst job ever. And nothing against banks. She goes, it was just boring.
There's people that work in banking that love banking.
Yeah.
But it was not for her.
Wasn't for her. She goes, now I get all these different interactions every day. I own my own business. I have this salon. And is it like a big salon? No, but is she making good money? Yeah. And she's happy. Like she made the comment. She goes, I had to come in and work on Saturday, and working on Saturday is okay when it's your choice.
Well, yeah, of course.
She goes, I showed up on Saturday, I made $600. So of course I'm going to work on Saturday because it was my choice. It wasn't because someone said I had to come here and make $15 an hour and be in the teller line for 4 hours. So I think that's really good insight. If you're in a job that you're not really passionate about, especially if you're behind saving for retirement, two things have to happen. If you can't increase how much you save, Like there's just not enough money there to do it in what you're doing. You're going to have to work longer. Would you rather work longer in something that you're passionate about or something you're not? We'd all rather do it. It's easy.
That's easy.
If you like what you do, you can work longer if you're behind. So that's something people should think about too. Like, well, I'm not on track for retirement. I love my job, so I'll work 5 years longer and get on track. But you have to understand where you are, which goes back to why we create these financial plans for people. They have a good, accurate inventory of where they are in life and what they need to do to be successful. Elias, I'm going to shift gears a little bit, but just the other day, I had someone ask me about long-term care and the access to it and how to handle it. And I think it came to light with this individual because they had a parent going to a care facility and said, how are we going to deal with this? And it got me thinking about the statistic that's out there that, today there's 100,000 centenarians in the world. In the next 20 years, it's going to quadruple to 400,000, which means we're having an aging population. And it got me thinking about how we handle it and what the statistics are. And the odds today are that 70% of people over 65 are going to need some type of skilled care. And skilled care encapsulates in-home health care, assisted living, nursing home care, all of those different things that could happen. I have both my grandmas are in assisted living or nursing home facility, and this is becoming more and more prevalent, and it's not getting less expensive. I thought it'd be good to talk with the listeners about the ways we believe we deal with long-term care. And the first way, it's probably the most irresponsible way, is just ignore that there's a problem. And we see it all the time. Not going to happen to me. My kids are going to take care of me. I won't know, so it doesn't matter. Well, that's great. But someone that's around you is going to have to deal with the problem. So it really sheds light on the 3 real ways you can deal with it. And the first way is Title 19.
Well, that's if you spend down. Yeah, you have to spend down all your assets and go on Title 19.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, if you look at the cost of long-term care, it's, for most people, probably a pretty good option. I mean, if you're sitting out there with $300,000, are you going to go spend $5,000 and $6,000 a year on premiums for long-term care insurance? I don't know.
Probably not. If your total investable
net worth
is, yeah. Well, and even so self-insuring is an option for people, which if you choose to ignore it and don't think about it, that's kind of your default option.
You're opting for self-insuring. But even Title 19, you're self-insuring until you're out of money.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And
so there are...
Let me hit on that, though, for a second, and I'm elaborating a little bit, but I have a grandma in a facility right now. Then she has long-term care, and she has a really good policy. I didn't get her in it. It's a policy they had actually bought before I got into the industry. So anybody who knows anything about insurance policies in the long-term care world, pre-2002, they were pretty awesome. She has an unlimited benefit, so it'll pay as long as she's there. It's not 3 or 5 years. It's unlimited. There's a daily maximum limit, but it's unlimited. So if she's there 8 years, it'll pay for 8 years. So it's
up to the daily limit.
It's a really good policy.
Wow.
But at this facility she's at, for those who are worried about, having to qualify for Medicaid or any of that stuff, or being, going on Title 19, most people are concerned that if they spend their assets, they're going to get moved to a state-run facility then. That's what a lot of the concern is. I don't have a choice, right? That's what it is. At this facility my grandma's at, if she pays her own way for 3 years, they guarantee they will not move her, even if she does go qualify for Title 19 and she spends down all of her assets, which is important because now she gets to stay at the same facility. They won't move her, which, think about being in individuals who are in a nursing home environment or assisted living, moving them and putting them in different places is traumatic. Like, they've got settled in one place and having to go to a new one at that stage is really hard. So I don't want doom and gloom to be surrounded around this Title 19. Like, it's not as, back in the day, they'd move you. 20 years ago, they just moved you to a state-run facility. It's a little different today. There are options out there. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but now you can hit on being self-insured.
Yeah. So when you go that route, well, one, you have to have enough funds to be able to afford all the costs that come with it. And it is going to lead to, most likely going to lead to more spending, right? And leaning on your investments for that. So what are some of the results of that are going to be, you're going to have less money to leave for your legacy, for legacy planning, if that's important to you. So it's just really, it's something that as you get older, you do have to at least think about how you want to approach it. Because if you do opt to one thing if you do opt to do a long-term care policy and insure that risk, you are protecting some of your assets too by doing that. And there's a cost to do it, but hopefully you'll have more resources to be able to pay for it and still in your investment accounts going through that.
Well, I think the way I walk people through, because people need to determine, can I be self-insured? There's a determination stage here. Like, do I have enough money to be self-insured? You can't just say, I'm going to self-insure. Like, you have to figure out if you have enough money. And it's not that hard. If you take the cost of the care facility, just assume it's $100,000 a year. All right, what do we know? We know that if you go to a facility of any kind, assisted living, home health care, nursing home, you need care. We know our Social Security check is not going away. So here's the process I walk people through. If the total cost is $100,000, figure out what our guaranteed income sources are. And there's really only two guaranteed income sources, Social Security and a pension. Add those up. So let's say you have a $100,000 cost, your Social Security and your pension is $60,000 a year. Okay, well, now we know we need $40,000 from our investments. So I like to just use 5%. Hey, we can take 5% or 6% out of these investments because you're older in life. You don't need these investments to last your lifetime anymore. Think about the 4% rule. That's designed to last 30 years. The average nursing home, the stay's 2.9 years or something. So
yeah, it's got to be
if you
2
just
to
say,
3
hey,
years.
I could pull 6, 7, 8, 9% out of my account for a number of years and be okay, that's the number you use. So if you had $1 million, you had $60,000 in guaranteed income for one person. You can't count both incomes because you don't know how long your spouse is going to live. We have a gap of $40,000. I would tell you if you had $1 million, $60,000 from a pension, Social Security, you're likely pretty close to being self-insured. You are. Well, let's say you don't have that. Let's say you have $500,000 and you have a $20,000 Social Security benefit and the cost is $100,000. Okay, well, 5% of 500 is 25,000 plus 20 is 45. You need $55,000 of long-term care coverage per year for 3 years to cover your gap. And that's
so
really
there's a lot. Yeah. So there's a lot to be said for kind of how to design it or make the decision for what you actually need.
You have to decide one, am I self-insured?
That's question one.
Question one. Question two, if I'm not self-insured, now how am I going to deal with the gap? And that's why you get a professional involved. You go to a planner, go to an insurance agent. The one thing I'm going to caution, make sure this individual who you work with is not trying to write you a policy for $100,000 a year. You don't need it. You need the gap. You could buy a Cadillac policy, but you don't have to. And I think a lot of people that are in the long-term care world like to over-insure people here.
You do think that?
That's all they do for a living, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. If they're
get paid on
just selling
premium.
long-term care insurance. Yeah.
They get paid on the premium they bring in. And that's nothing wrong with that. Like, whoever helps you with it is going to get paid. But buy what you need. You don't need to buy more than you need. It's kind of like buying permanent insurance because it's an investment. Since when do I buy life insurance to make it an investment? Just buy an investment for an investment, insurance for insurance. Pretty simple.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And if you're going to cover the gap of income, then you're just insuring the need. You're not just buying the Cadillac policy, which I don't really know. I was trying to think what would be compelling reasons to say, oh yeah, I just want a Cadillac long-term care plan.
I can give them to you.
Okay.
Choice, legacy, no worries. Some people would rather just pay the premium, know it's covered, know they're going to have the choice of where they go, know their kids are not going to be burdened with having to worry about spending their inheritance. Their husband or wife's not going to be worried about, oh, I'm going to keep you at home as long as possible because they don't want to spend the money. That is a real reason people do it. Because think about how people deal with money. And it's why women spend much longer in a nursing home facility than men. You get sick, Maddie's going to stay, and you don't have long-term care. Maddie's going to stay home and take care of you.
You think so? She probably would.
You better hope.
Yeah.
We all hope, right?
She would.
But she's going to do everything possible to not put you in the facility that costs $100,000 a year because she's going to have to write the check. Now, you have a Cadillac long-term care policy that pays everything and you qualify. She's going to ship you off as soon as possible if she has that because she has the ability to. She's paid for that. Or you guys have paid for that.
Yeah, we've paid for it. Yeah.
So I think that's the other flip side here. If you can afford it, like the people I know who have done larger long-term care stuff with us, a lot of it has to do with choice. They don't want to have to make the choice of, do I have to stay home and scrimp and save to take care of them? Or can I put them somewhere where they can have professional help that they need? I mean, if you took a look at the people staying home and trying to care for someone in their household, they do it until...
And it causes a lot of wear and tear on the caregiver.
For sure.
A lot of people's health deteriorates in that situation because they're providing all this care for their spouse, and then their health is declining because of that.
Or parents think their kids are going to do it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in our house, and I made it very clear to my parents, I'm not doing this. I'm an only child. And I'm pretty close in age to my parents. So we lined up long-term care to make sure they had the choice to get it. Like, of course I'll help, but I'm not going to be a caregiver. Like, I can't do it. I've got 2 young kids. My parents are...
I wouldn't be qualified to...
No one's qualified to do it unless you're a nurse.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so those are the ways you deal with long-term care. Ignore the problem. Title 19, which for a lot of people is the right option. Self-insured, or you're going to buy an insurance policy to fill the gap. That's how you deal with it. The cool thing about how we do it, we model it in that financial plan and really dial in exactly what the risk exposure is. So this isn't like a wild guess. We can figure out what someone should have based upon what's happening today in their world, and then also what we kind of predict for the future. We always have inflation run a little bit higher on the long-term care side because it's going up a little faster.
It is good. Yeah, it's going to go up in price.
This problem is not going away. This is going to be bigger and bigger as we have an aging population that is 4 times more likely to make it to 100 years old. It's not going away.
Yeah, there's going to be more and more people using those type of services
every day.
Yep.
With that said, I want to thank everybody for listening to the show. If anybody out there is looking to get a financial plan or you need an analysis on your long-term care, click the link in the description or go to btwellshow.com. We'd be happy to sit down, help get you on the right track, or at least know where you stand. With that said, do you have anything you want to close the show with, Elias?
Thank you for listening. Tune in next time.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Premier Investments and Wealth Management and LPL Financial do not provide tax advice. Please consult your tax professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. There's no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. Rebalancing a portfolio may cause investors to incur tax liabilities and/or transaction costs, and does not assure profit or protect against loss. All performance referenced is historical and is not a guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and cannot be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal. This recording contains only general descriptions and is not a solicitation to sell any insurance product or security, nor is it intended as any financial or tax advice. For information about specific insurance needs or situations, contact your financial professional. This video is intended to assist in educating you about insurance generally and not to provide personal service. They may not take into account your personal characteristics such as budget, assets, risk tolerance, family situation, or activities which may affect the type of insurance that would be right for you. In addition, state insurance laws and insurance underwriting rules may affect available coverage and its costs. Guarantees are based on the claims-paying ability of the issuing company. If you need more information or would like personal advice, you should consult an insurance professional.